Hello and welcome back to the Happy Accidental Gardener channel. My name is Estelle. I am the Happy Accidental Gardener. If you have been to my channel and visited my garden before, welcome back. If you have never been here before, welcome to my garden and my garden journey. Today we are going to talk about watering. If you have a garden, you know watering is important, and you know watering consistently is important. But as we get into the hotter days of summer, as we get back to quote unquote normal, and a lot of people are either reducing their working from home time or going back to the office, how do we get our plants watered in a way that is good for them and easy for us? So that's what we are going to talk about today. Let's get started. Now, when it comes to gardening, everybody knows that watering is super important. And when you have a small garden, it might be easy to just pull out the hose every day and water your plants, spend some quality time with them. But as the weather gets warmer, and it will get hot, and as your plants' needs grow, and really sometimes you just don't have the time, you have to look for other ways to effectively water your plants. And one of the most effective ways to water is drip irrigation. And I know what you're saying, your garden is small, it's on a patio, maybe on a fire escape, or maybe you're just starting and you don't want to invest in a whole drip irrigation system. Makes total sense. There are definitely other ways to implement drip irrigation that don't cost a whole lot of money. One of them, water containers. This gallon water jug can easily be used for drip irrigation. Put one hole in the top, 2 to 3 small holes in the bottom. You can fill up the water jug and it will slowly drip 1 gallon of water to the roots of your plant. Do you think your plants need more water? That's fine. You can fill up this gallon jug more than once a day. And this way, you're only standing outside in the heat and maybe humid and uncomfortable weather as long as it takes to fill up this jug, and not as long as it takes to totally deep root water your plant. Do you have to use a gallon jug? Absolutely not. If you have 2-liter bottles, if you have smaller containers and you want to use a 20-ounce bottle, all of that, perfectly doable. Same concept. You want to put a hole in the top so you don't create a vacuum, and put 2 to 3 small holes in the bottom. The larger your holes and the more holes you have, the faster the water will drip out. So if you do want a slow drip, you want fewer, smaller holes. And you've set up a very low cost, very reusable drip irrigation system. On the end here, we have the 5-in-1 apple tree. As you can see, it's a larger container, so we're actually going to be putting 2-gallon containers here in the soil to work as a drip irrigation system. I am using this drapery hanger. Let me make sure you can see that, get that in focus. Something I found in the junk drawer in the kitchen. You can use a small nail to make a hole. And what you want to do is just put 1 in the top or 2 to 3 in the bottom. I did put 3 in the bottom of this one. And I'm just using this pointy end to poke a hole, and just that simple, drip irrigation. As you can see, that gallon jug right there is slowly emptying into the soil. You don't have to worry about rate of water uptake because, again, it's very slow. And this will help keep your soil moisturized and your plants watered on hot days. As you can see, my trees are still covered. The days of cicadas are almost over, so those will be coming off soon. Hole in the top, made just that quickly. As you can see, I've now got 2 water jugs down there, and they will slowly but surely water the plant. I'm now going to do that same thing for the white peach tree, the 3 apple tree experiments, the cherry tree, and the 2 yellow peach trees that I have. want to do if you are using plastic gallon jugs or liter containers for your drip irrigation is stop by your local dollar store. They sell decorative rocks. You can drop those rocks right in the bottles, and what that will do, it will give some weight to those containers so that on windy days or on days when it's raining really hard, your drip irrigation won't blow away. Another way to water your plants is with a traditional drip irrigation system. If you have access to an outside faucet or spigot, they're relatively easy to set up. Last year, I did set one up according to the plant pattern that I had in my garden. This year, completely different plant pattern. And I was looking for some drip irrigation tubing that I could set up according to my new garden pattern. Now, every place I've looked, including the source, including the company that sells the drip irrigation kits, is absolutely out of the tubing I need. So what I'm going to do is rearrange the garden that I have to match the drip irrigation pattern that I have so I can use what I have to work a little smarter, not harder. This is an example of being able to use tubing that I set up last year for this year's garden. Last year, in about this same spot, I had a similar pot and I put sweet potatoes in it, or sweet potato slips to grow sweet potatoes. And so this short offshoot, it's the brown tubing that's actually the drip irrigation. The black tubing delivers the water. And if you look closely, you can see this emitter. They're every 12 inches. They're quarter inch tubing. This brown tubing is quarter inch tubing with emitters every 12 inches. And since I had a similar pot in a similar spot, I'm putting this one back. And when I fill that with soil and put sweet potato slips in there, it will be able to be watered by this particular length of emitting tubing. If you look in here, I also have some emitting tubing that I'm going to line up with my tomato plants. All 4 tomato plants will be along that length of tubing. This end is a goof plug. And as you can see, I think it fits very tightly into the inner diameter of this emitter tubing, which is great when you don't want it to come out under water pressure. It's not great when you need to pull one out and use it on a different length of tubing. Okay, I was able to get out the goof plug by cutting the end of that tubing. I may have to trim that again and use it in someplace else, but right now I am able to use that longer length of tubing in the corn bed and block the end with this goof plug. Hopefully, the rest of the rearranging of this tubing will go equally smoothly. Last year, I did have the peppers along this row. I'm not sure how many pepper plants I had last year, but I believe it was 5 or 6. I once again have 6 pepper plants, and I was able to reuse the tubing that I set up last year to hook up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the plants. And then this 6th plant over here that is leaning a little and does need a stake is able to not only get its own tubing, but share that tubing with one of the peanut planters. In this back corner where we have this 50-gallon grow bag with dwarf melons, this is my first time growing dwarf melons. They do still vine, but their vines stay 3 to 5 feet long. We'll see how that works out. Traditional melon vines can get 10 to 15 feet long and really take over a garden if you let them. So I was able to set up drip irrigation in that bed and in the peanut bed as well. To move this raised garden bed in a contained area, I've got to take down the stakes, take down the netting, move the buckets and the cinder blocks, and then put everything back together. Whoever says gardening isn't cardio obviously does not have a garden. if you can clearly see that critter right there in the soil. Yeah, it's wiggling. You can see it. I guess it didn't want to be on camera. That is a grub. They live in the soil. They can't see. They look relatively harmless. The problem is, because they overwinter in the soil, when you plant new things or when your perennials come back, they will eat the roots of your plant, thereby killing it before you can get any harvest. So I found this in the container of one of my squash plants. Unfortunately, there is no real way to get rid of grubs without poisoning them and possibly harming the plant. What that means is when I go out later today, I'm going to need to buy fresh soil in which to repot all of my squash plants, my cucumber plants, and my green beans, just to make sure we're not hosting or feeding any critters. In an effort to set up a drip irrigation system, I was actually able to rearrange my plants to take advantage of the drip irrigation system I had set up last season. So in this corner, you'll see 4 tomato plants. That one in the corner needs another staking. It is leaning badly. You'll see 2 green empty pots where sweet potatoes will be. And if you look, I have 2. And if you look back here in the corner, you see 2 empty pots where sweet potatoes will be. And if you look, I have 2 feeder tubes going in, knowing that when I put soil in, these will rest right on top of the soil and water those plants. Here, I have yellow squash, green squash, cucumber, and green bean plants. I have a little platform here for additional green beans, and I have enough of the actual emitter tube to put another 2 pots here. The reason why you see stakes and no netting is because I need to repot all of these. As I said a little earlier, I found grubs in one of them, and I'm worried that I'll find grubs in all of them. So the best thing to do is repot in fresh soil. Here I have my corn, which is doing beautifully. Yay, corn. Last year in this corner, I had melons. And so there was definitely enough emitter tube to go around the outside and the middle of this grow bag. It's a 50-gallon grow bag. And then we see 6 pepper plants. 5 of them are on one length of emitter tube. And then we've got this one over here that also needs a stake. And 2 peanut planters. Back there in the corner, we've got a 50-gallon grow bag with a couple of varieties of bush melon. As you can see, they are loving this hot, humid weather. Last year in that corner, I had yellow squash and zucchini. So there's definitely enough emitter tube back there to handle that bag. The next step, of course, is to hook up the main feeder tube to the outside spigot and make sure everything works. This is the connection for the drip irrigation system to the spigot on the house. Now you will see that I do have a splitter here that does have 2 valves. So this side of the splitter goes to the regular garden hose. This will go to the drip irrigation system. There is a filter in here to filter out, I believe it's a 25 micron filter that will filter out any sediment or particles that come from the water line. This will follow this black water line all the way over here into the garden area, and then it connects with our 1/4 inch emitter hose. So what I'm going to do now is just hook everything up, make sure the water is flowing, and then come back and check on the garden and make sure water is flowing in here. As we can see, the emitter line is working. We've got water. And some of our drips we need to reposition to make sure we're not watering the ground, to make sure we are watering plant, or watering soil, I should say. But it's good to know that water is coming out where it's supposed to come out, and everything will get watered accordingly. So that is it for today. We talked about watering. As you know, there's always traditional watering, a watering can, or using a garden hose. But you can also set up drip irrigation to make watering quick, convenient, and easy. You can have a system that is connected to a faucet or spigot outside of your home that waters all of your plants at the same time. Or you can set up something that's a little less technical but works just as well nonetheless, using gallon containers or plastic bottles. Either way, you have set up a system that makes watering easy and makes it convenient, and the easier it is, the more convenient it is, the more likely a gardener is to do on a regular basis, which benefits everybody. So that's it for today. As always, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you'll know when I have new content. That helps me grow my channel. I am always excited to spend time in the garden and to share that with you. Thanks again for stopping by. I'll see you around the garden.